Here's an update of stuff I've been doing in my downtime as far as work and other short-term goals. I've had this XR250 since I think it was like 2005 or something like that. It had blown up, I think it was 2 or 3 times. Um, I forget at the moment. Um, the first time it blew up, I did a wheelie down the road for like a mile and put it in 6th gear because it's got 6 gears. And kind of looked over and ended up flipping it backwards. I can ride wheelies for miles. I think a little bit of wind or something got under my fender or something. I have difficulty holding up in 6th gear because it doesn't have that much power. It would eventually go down after about 80 feet in 6th gear. Sometimes I can hold it to about 100 or 120 feet. Usually just ride them in 5th gear, right at the balance point, a little bit above. Left it in our shed for it was like 2 or 4 years. A buddy of mine, when he used to live near where I am now, suggested I just push start it and see what happens. There's a hill like right behind our house there that I could, I could walk it over to and push it down to try and push start it. It eventually started up, and I kind of rode it like that for like 2 years. That's what equaled out to the piston being messed up. It eventually blew up, and somebody had I had paid to have it repaired, and was riding another wheelie down a dirt road, and I thought the timing chain had snapped, and that's actually the one I'm repairing on now. So I take back what I said about the piston there being the way it was on some of my other pictures. I don't know if you guys have seen them. My pictures on my Google Photos, I think on my Facebook page too, of like a quarter-size hole right in the top of my piston. And have been sitting here working out ways to avoid paying $600 for an exhaust cylinder and a piston cylinder head. Went and replaced the piston rings, bought new valve springs, and have been going through kind of cleaning pieces up of the cylinder there, which I'll show you here in a second. So here's basically what I've been doing for the past 2 years to 5 years, trying to get it running. Is I have been that poor looking for work for like 10 years. Finally went through and bought a drill. Here's the actual cylinder. The valve cylinder, exhaust cylinder, whatever you want to call it. He had went through and cleaned it up. As you can see, there's a gigantic hole / gouge. I had recently just bought a welder. He had this guy looking pretty nice. I still got to go through and smooth everything out. Went through and started to reshape the cylinder. I'm sorry, not the cylinders, the valves here, to be able to fit the new valves in there. After going through and taking a drill and going through and drilling everything down, because there was a bunch of gouges similar to these holes. I probably went through and grinded down about a millimeter or so off of each side, and I'm contemplating on going all the way down to where the spark plug goes in here. And I'm not sure how that's going to work out. I actually had just purchased a arc welder not too long ago. I think it's like 110 volt, some aluminum electrodes, and tried filling in the hole here. I had forgotten to take a brass or stainless steel brush to brush it off. And as I was going through sanding it out with my drill for like 2 or 3 days, pieces of it started to fly off, so I think I'm just going to try to drill the rest of this out here, get this guy to fly off. I don't want it to fly off after I get it repaired. The cylinder alone is just $300 from Honda East. I don't really have $300. And I'm thinking I'm going to go through and just double shim the top of the valve guides here. Double shim the top of the valve guides there. There's a shim there. I think there's one missing over here. Maybe not. One of them's got something missing on there. And hope that doesn't affect the timing as much as it might. saving $300. I've got my piston cylinder somewhere. To where I had attempted to get the sleeve out of it without having a workbench or a proper way of getting it out. I tried using a pick and setting a piece of wood on the top of it, like a concrete type pick, and hitting the top of the piece of wood there, and it didn't quite work out. And so I tried it without the wood and kind of broke, the cylinder there. Is some of the original pictures I have of it. There's a slight crack on the side of the piston sleeve, which would eventually have eaten away at the piston itself there until it eventually blew up. So I went through, and after using the pick trying to hit it out, there's a couple times I had missed the piston sleeve and hit parts of the top of the block itself there, putting gouges in it where the gasket goes. And had again used an aluminum electrode to go through and fill in parts of it, and had never used a welder before, so it looks absolutely terrible. And I'm attempting to smooth it back out with a drill once I get it going there. But seeing this guy, I don't know how well it's going to work. I'm contemplating on buying just a new piston head, or whatever you want to call it, whatever it's originally called. I've got basically everything in order. I had just recently bought a turn signal kit, little toggle switch for the handlebars. I'm going to eventually get my motorcycle's license. Once I get it going, saving on gas, I gotta get a rear linkage, shock, and swing arm bearing kit for it. I had taken everything apart and put it in my truck at one point due to rain and snow and stuff like that. And it had lost parts of the rear shock linkage and swing arm linkage. It's like $70 or $80 to get both through Honda East, or the manufacturer where I live, with a Honda dealer. It was like $300 just for the rear shock linkage and the swing arm linkage, which is just ridiculous. It was like $30 for a bolt for it. So I got to go through and get that, a new tube, and then everything's ready to go once I rig up the turn signals, through the fuse transistors, to the CDI box somehow, which I have sitting somewhere. I'm not sure how I'm going to rig it up yet, but I do have everything kind of pre-rigged. My bedroom's an absolute disaster right now. I've got the turn signals, toggles, fuse transistors, or the relays, if you want to call them that. Which I'm thinking about getting a relay for. They're like $15. We got the turn signals and everything. It was under $30. Went through, got a little toggle switch. It's pretty cool. I don't have a horn for it yet. I was thinking about buying one of those U.S. Coast Guard air horns and rigging it up on my handlebars for the inspection if I have to get it inspected, or however that works when I go to take my motorcycle's license test, because I'm sure they're going to ask me to press my horn. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to do to be able to save money, as far as eventually purchasing a like $5,000 trailer, and how I've struggled for like 10 years trying to do that. I got a couple other ideas here for one of my patents here that I was attempting to do, which is actually part of the reason why I bought the welder. Went through and had bought a little bit of stainless steel here to make part of a frame for a patent that I was going to do, and went to go weld some stuff without a clamp, and it didn't quite work out well. It took me a little bit to get it. As you can see, my welds are absolutely terrible. It was kind of a learning experience for me. It took me a little bit, it took me like 10 or 15 minutes to learn how to strike an arc. So I got a lot of learning to go through and do as far as a trade skill. But after a little bit, I didn't do too bad. Went through, bought a gigantic 14-inch metal drill to be able to cut metal down and stuff like that. All kinds of parts and stuff, and they're little tools for ideas and stuff that I'll use. I'm trying to save up money and keep these tools as I will use them in the future. I've got a lot of ideas and stuff I want to patent. I've been looking at how to melt down. I've been looking at how to melt down metal and different ways to achieve making molds. Different ways to make molds and stuff like that to be able to make like a piston cylinder and stuff like that. I've seen a couple videos on YouTube as far as, I think it was silicone or silica or something like that, as far as foundries and cheap ways to make foundries to be able to melt stuff down. And I think I'm really going to start getting into that once I get my own place here. Seen a couple cool videos of some cheap foundries out of like old propane tanks and a little blower and just charcoal. And figuring out how to make molds and stuff like that. I think I'm going to do a lot of cool stuff here once I get going. It's pretty cheap, efficient, learning experience. I think I'm going to do something cool though. Anyways, over and out.